Today, we're going to dive into a single, incredibly direct instruction. It's designed to cut right through all the mental chatter and point us back to our true nature, a place really that we never ever leave.
So everything we're about to explore comes from a talk called Direct Pointing by Loon, which was given at a silent retreat. The key thing here is that this isn't some abstract philosophy. It's a very practical tool meant for you to use and see for yourself, right in your own experience.
I think we all know this feeling, right? Getting completely swept away by the stream of our own thoughts, our feelings, our sensations, just feeling tossed around by life. Well, that exact feeling of being lost is our starting point. It's the perfect doorway for this investigation.
So, what do we call this state of being all caught up? This teaching has a very specific name for it. It's called the dream of appearances.
It's when we get completely entangled in the content of our experience. The stories we tell ourselves, the anxieties, the memories, even the physical feelings. We basically mistake ourselves for the movie that's playing on the screen of our mind. And that right there is how the dream begins.
Okay, so if we're not the story, then who or what are we? This next part introduces the absolute core distinction of this entire teaching, finding your true position.
This is it. This is what the teaching says is our actual nature. Knowing. It's nothing you have to achieve or build. It's just the simple, formless awareness that's already here, effortlessly conscious of every single thing that happens. Think of it as the silent, empty screen that all the experiences play on.
And then you have appearances. And what are appearances? Well, basically everything else. Every thought, every emotion, every sight, every sound, even that very strong sense of being a separate me. All of it is just an appearance happening within that knowing.
This slide lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have knowing. It's singular, it's simple, it's your true home base. And on the other side, you've got the whole storm of appearances. They're countless, they're complicated, they're seductive, and they're always changing. It's pretty clear which one is the safe harbor, isn't it?
And this is absolutely crucial. While there are a million different appearances, the knowing that is aware of all of them is always and only one. It's not like there's your knowing and my knowing. There's just knowing. Period. This quote just nails it. Our real work isn't to fix or manage all the objects, all the appearances that pop up. Our work is simply to remember that our true position, our actual identity, is the knowing itself, not all the things that it knows.
So what happens when we forget this? Because let's be honest, we do, all the time. What are the consequences when we lose our footing in that position of knowing?
Now, the teaching is really clear on this point. You can't actually lose knowing. It's impossible. It's always here. So losing knowing is just a shorthand way of saying that our attention got completely hooked, and we've mistaken ourselves for a passing thought or a fleeting emotion.
This slide shows exactly how that happens. It's like a chain reaction. It starts with just a tiny moment of forgetting our true position. Instantly, we latch onto an appearance, a thought, a feeling. And from that identification, boom, preference is born. I like this. I don't want that. And in that very moment, the whole identity of a separate, struggling self just springs into existence.
And look at the fallout from that. We suddenly feel separate, small, and vulnerable. Life becomes this constant, exhausting game of choosing and attaching, which just leads to pride and comparison and conflict. The whole world splits into right versus wrong, and suddenly, the fear of death becomes terrifyingly real. All from that one little moment of forgetting.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? The practice itself is so beautiful and almost shockingly simple.
And there you have it. That's the whole practice in 2 words. The instruction isn't to know something specific or to figure out what's being known. It's just to come back to and rest as the pure function of knowing itself, to stand as the knower, not the known. And just notice how radical and all-inclusive this is. If the mind wants to meditate, you just know that wanting. If you're bored out of your skull, you just know the boredom. Even if some profound spiritual insight pops up, you just know the insight. The appearance itself doesn't matter. The instruction is always the same. Simply know.
Now, for many of us, the word awareness is a really big deal in our practice. This teaching makes a very subtle but super important point about it. Awareness is seen as an incredibly useful appearance. It's like an alarm bell that goes off when you've forgotten who you are, reminding you to come back home to knowing. Here's a way to think about it.
Awareness is the friendly voice that says, hey, you're lost in the dream again. But knowing is your home. Once you hear that voice and find your way back, you don't need the reminder anymore. You just rest. You're already home.
So what's the result of all this? What actually happens when we learn to consistently abide in this position of knowing?
What practitioners say is that the result isn't some big, flashy spiritual experience. It's more like a simple feeling of relief. It's a return to our natural state. It's that deep, profound, simple feeling of finally coming home to what's been here all along.
From this stable ground, everything shifts. This knowing becomes the only real refuge there is. Wisdom isn't something you go out and get. It just starts to function naturally from this position. And even the biggest things, like suffering, birth, and death, are finally seen for what they are, just temporary appearances dancing in this unchanging field of knowing.
This really boils it all down, doesn't it? All the thousands of choices we think we're making every day, what to do, what to think, what to feel, they all collapse into this one fundamental choice we're making in every single moment. Will you stand as knowing, or will you get lost in the dream of appearances?
So we'll end here. Not with an answer, but with a question for your own direct investigation. If you just let go of all the concepts we've talked about, just for a second, if you drop the story of me who is listening, what is the simple, effortless knowing that is aware in this very moment?